So what's the first thing that comes to mind when you think about San Francisco? Nowadays, for many people, it's the issue of crime, from car break-ins to retail thefts, problems with no easy solution. Joining me to talk about his plans to tackle the problem is the new San Francisco Police Commissioner, Kevin Benedicto, who took over the position in April. Thank you so much for joining us today, Kevin.
Thank you so much for having me.
So, how are things going to be different under your watch, and how can we expect to see changes in policing in the city?
I hope so. So I'm really excited to join my fellow commissioners. As a member of the commission, I have a couple of clear goals I want to accomplish. One is for the commission and the department to be accessible and available to the community. Two, to regain San Francisco's leadership on police reform and criminal justice reform. And three, to do everything I can to help the Asian American community feel safer in what is really an unprecedented time.
Can you give us some specific examples on how you're planning to make some adjustments?
Sure. So I think a big priority of mine is community availability and accessibility, and so that includes having the police commission have meetings with the community, really focusing on community policing, ensuring that there's transparency in those areas. When it comes to police reforms, I'm excited to work with my fellow commissioner, Max Carter-Oberstone. We this week introduced a new policy to end racially biased traffic stops in San Francisco. I'm also going to be working on reforming the search warrant policy of the San Francisco Police Department to make sure that all searches are being carried out within the confines of the law.
How soon can we see some of these measures implemented?
I think very soon. So I think with the example of pretext stops, there's data that showed that Black San Franciscans are between 6 and 10 times more likely to be stopped and searched. And this new policy that we've started the introduction of just this last Wednesday, I think is going to help address that. We're working with a coalition of over 60 community organizations. There's going to be 30 days of public comment. And I think the plan is to pass that policy in the summer, and hopefully you can start to see really tangible impacts from that new policy on stops.
And we know that the San Francisco police force, you're facing this historic staffing shortage, and that's the case with a lot of law enforcement agencies across the country. So are there any plans on your end to recruit more officers, and is recruiting more officers a solution to addressing crime in the city?
I think that it's important to remember, first of all, that the staffing shortages, like you said, are common across departments, but also common across the entire economy. In the public and private sector, we're seeing employers struggling to find workers. So I think it's important to see that in that broader context. I think that a lot of the policies that I propose are designed to help rebuild trust between the department and the community, and I think that will help with staffing, because if you have a community that trusts the department, more people from that community are going to want to become officers. I also think that it's important for us as San Franciscans to remember that the police department isn't the only solution to a lot of the issues. I know the mayor's office has been working closely with the department and the Department of Public Health on street crisis response teams who are qualified mental health professionals to deal with people in crisis. They just announced a new office called the Office of Coordinated Care, which is social workers and caseworkers designed to help with these crises, updates to the Tenderloin Linkage Center. So I think it's important that we address this from all aspects of our government and indeed all aspects of our society.
What is your message for people who don't trust law enforcement, who don't trust police?
I think my message is that there have been a lot of things that have happened in the last few years to shake that trust, and that trust has to be earned, and that I'm hoping that alongside Chief Bill Scott, that the commission can make important reforms, and that the department can earn the trust of the people, and that be partners with the community on important reforms.
And we all know about the rise in anti-Asian violence during the pandemic. A lot of businesses in Chinatown were also detrimentally impacted. What is the police force doing to address that, and what is the message for folks in the API community?
I mean, like I said, that's one of my big priorities, and I promise that I'm going to do everything in my power to help make sure the Asian American community in this city is safe. I know there have been times this last year that I've told my own mom, who lives in Southern California, not to go out at night or alone if she can avoid it. It's a really scary time. And so I think that there are a couple things that need to happen. I think the department needs to continue its very successful outreach with the Asian American community. We have to be sure we're recruiting bilingual officers and officers that are patrolling in areas like Chinatown that understand the community and are able to build connections with that community. And I also think that community partnerships and organizations are really important. When I was, before I joined the commission as a member of the Asian American Bar Association and a former civil rights lawyer, I organized a coalition of 15 Asian American bar associations to pool their resources, to share what they're doing, to connect people with victim services. I also help organize representation of a lot of Chinatown businesses that are being targeted by frivolous Americans with Disability Act lawsuits. I know that's been another area that's been a real concern to the Asian American community.